Look around your room right now. Somewhere in a corner or buried in a drawer, there is a graveyard. It's a graveyard of abandoned versions of you. Maybe it's a set of expensive Japanese woodworking chisels you haven't touched in a year. Maybe it's a half-finished Python course. Maybe it's a stack of books on Stoic philosophy that you started with a fire in your belly, only to let the fire die out 3 weeks later. Society has a word for people like you: dilettante. They say you lack grit. They say you're flighty. They warn you that if you don't pick one lane and stay in it, you'll end up a jack of all trades, master of none. You feel a specific type of shame every time you start something new, because deep down, you're waiting for the moment you inevitably quit. But here is the truth that the 9-to-5 world doesn't want you to know. That feeling of being scattered isn't a defect. It's a symptom of a highly adaptive nervous system. While the world is telling you to focus, your brain is doing something much more sophisticated. It's preparing you for a future where specialization is a liability. It's building a rare cognitive architecture known as the M-shaped mind. Today, we're going to stop apologizing for the hobby graveyard. I'm going to show you why your chaos is actually a survival strategy, and how to turn your scattered interests into a bulletproof career. The Specialization Lie. To understand why you feel so much anxiety about your interests, we have to look at the lie we were all sold. For the last 100 years, the world was an I-shaped game. In an I-shaped world, you dug one hole a mile deep. You became the accountant, the engineer, or the welder. This worked because the world was what psychologists call a kind learning environment. Think of golf. The rules of golf never change. If you practice your swing for 10,000 hours, you will get better. The feedback is immediate and consistent. In a kind environment, the specialist wins every single time. But look around. Do you live in a kind environment? The rules of the economy change every 6 months. Industries that didn't exist 2 years ago are now worth billions. Skills that took a decade to master are being automated by a single line of code. We now live in a wicked learning environment. In a wicked environment, the rules are constantly shifting. The specialist is fragile. If you are a specialist coder and AI starts writing that code better than you, your mile-deep hole just became your grave. This is why your brain is pulling you in different directions. You instinctively feel the shift. You are drifting from electrical wiring to yoga, from heavy lifting to DJing, not because you're unfocused, but because you are gathering disparate data points. In the 21st century, depth is no longer the only currency, the science of far transfer. Psychology calls this superpower far transfer. A specialist uses near transfer. They solve a problem using a tool they've used 1,000 times before. It's efficient, but it's rarely innovative. But when you have an M-shaped mind, you use far transfer. This is the ability to take a concept from one completely unrelated field and apply it to another. Imagine a web developer who used to be a beekeeper. To a specialist, those 2 years spent tending to hives were wasted time. But that developer understands organic systems, growth cycles, and decentralized communication in a way a pure coder never will. They don't just write code, they build ecosystems. Think of Steve Jobs taking a calligraphy class. At the time, his friends thought he was wasting his time, but years later, that useless hobby was the reason the Mac had beautiful typography. That is far transfer. When you feel like an imposter because you aren't the #1 expert in the room, remember this: your value isn't in your depth, it's in your bridge. You can see connections that the specialist, blinded by their own expertise, cannot even perceive. The M-shaped architecture. You've probably heard of the T-shaped person. someone who has broad general knowledge in one area of deep specialty. For a long time, this was the gold standard for hiring. But the world has moved past the T-shape. We are now entering the era of the M-shaped mind. An M-shaped person has multiple pillars of depth. You might be deep in marketing, deep in psychology, and deep in video editing. These pillars are connected by a bridge of curiosity. But here is where most people fail. You cannot build all the pillars of the M at the same time. This is why you feel burnt out. If you try to learn data science, write a novel, and master the violin all in the same month, your M will collapse under its own weight. The true polymaths, the people who actually change the world, practice something called serial mastery. Serial mastery and the power of seasons. You have to view your life in seasons. Stop trying to be everything at once. Instead, give yourself permission to obsess. Season 1 might be your stoic season. You spend 6 months reading Marcus Aurelius, practicing discipline, and hardening your mind. Season 2 might be your technical season. You go deep into AI, automation, or mechanics. Season 3 might be your creative season. The most successful M-shaped people I know don't quit their hobbies. They archive them. When you move from music to programming, you aren't failing at music. You have simply finished the construction of that pillar. That knowledge is now part of your permanent architecture. I once knew a guy who was a high-level programmer. He spent his 20s obsessing over game design. In his 30s, he pivoted to philosophy. People told him he was falling behind, but by his 40s, he was building educational software that taught logic and ethics through game mechanics. He didn't merge them instantly. He let them exist sequentially. Eventually, the seasons collide, and when they do, you become a niche of one. There is no competition for a person who combines 15 years of disparate, deep interests. You're the only person on Earth who can do what you do. Redundancy, the unbreakable advantage. There is one final reason why your scattered mind is a superpower, and it comes from evolutionary biology. It's called redundancy. In nature, redundancy is strength. Why do elephants rarely get cancer, even though they have trillions of cells? It's because they have massive genetic redundancy. They have 20 copies of a specific cancer-fighting gene called P53. Humans only have one. If our one copy fails, we're in trouble. If an elephant's copy fails, it has 19 more ready to go. Your chaotic interests are your redundancy. If you are just a specialist SEO expert and Google changes its algorithm tomorrow, your world ends. You are fragile. But if you are an SEO expert who also understands electrical engineering, video storytelling, and ancient philosophy, you are unbreakable. If one industry vanishes, you don't panic. You pivot. You have a safety net of skills that ensures no matter what happens to the economy, the job market, or the tech landscape, you have a move to make. You haven't been wasting your time dabbling. You have been engaging in strategic adaptability. You have been building a version of yourself that can survive anything. So the next time you look at your hobby graveyard, I want you to change the narrative. Those aren't failures. They weren't phases you grew out of. They were semesters in a university of your own making. You were never meant to be a single-use tool. You were built to be the bridge between worlds that other people can't even see. The future doesn't belong to those who can do one thing perfectly. It belongs to the M-shaped minds. It belongs to the people who can synthesize, adapt, and connect. If you're ready to stop apologizing and start building your pillars, do 2 things for me right now. Drop a puzzle piece emoji in the comments. It's a signal to everyone else here that you're done trying to fit into a single box. Tell me about your hobby graveyard. What is the one skill you quit that you realize now is actually a superpower? If you want to go deeper into how to structure your seasons of mastery and build your M-shaped career, stop digging one hole. Start building your bridge. I'll see you in the next video.